You ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other places people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you get paid for this podcast. What I like about it is starting using it is how easy it is to use. I just upload old episodes of my podcast. I placed it other places, do some editing and tinkering, and voila, that's it. It's that simple. So if you always wanted to start your own podcast, make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start. That's anchor.fm/start to join me in the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. And now, let's get on with the show. You ever felt you're being watched sometimes? Have you ever had a cold shiver run down your spine? Sometimes we go through that. Sometimes we look for answers to questions we don't really truly understand. Like, are we truly alone in the universe? Is there life after death? This world is weird. It gets weirder by the day. And in that weird are questions that we have as curious beings known as humans. Tonight, we look into some of those questions and get a little weird. Because we all are just a tad bit weird. Tonight on Weekend Weird. Welcome to Weekend Weird, the show about the weird and mundane that's going on in this universe and this world. I'm your host, producer, creator, Mr. Everything. I'm the guy that does it because it has to be done. RedNick. Happy New Year to you. We have gotten out of that year of hell known as 2020 and walked into another hell, which is 2021. Just we think we're getting out. They keep pulling us back in. You're hearing this after the crap that had happened at the Capitol and watching a damn near insurrection happen with a bunch of crazy ass people who can't take a loss, who can't decide what is truth and what is fiction, and just all out, just crazy. And we had to watch that live on television. Unless you were there, which in this case, if you were there, please immediately shut off this podcast. Delete this from your podcast registry if you were there causing trouble. Because I don't want you as a listener. And this show is produced free. So I'm the only person wasting my money on this, so I really don't care. But, yeah, that was... God. You think you were going to get a clean break, and it's not. And we're still dealing with that and dealing with the pandemic. But, you know what? Here on Weekend Weird, we're about to take you away for, whether it be an hour, 2 hours, a couple of minutes, hearing a story, putting our thinking caps on, just letting us forget this hellhole which we live in right now. So this episode, which I've recorded previously, about a couple of hours ago, with a returning guest, Lorrell Kilpatrick, professor at Indiana University Northwest in Gary, Indiana, and also the host of Issues and Answers Above the Fold on Gary Radio, WLTH 1370. You can find that online, WLTH1370.com, or you can find it on Facebook. She's still hosting that show, and she previously came on the Indiana Sampler episode, which a lot of people seem to love. So I asked her to come back at the beginning of the year to do a story on the servant girl murders of Austin, Texas, back in 1885, 1886. So, and I really appreciated her insight and her know-withal and her commenting on this case. So, without further ado, we will go live to that. Well, not live, but pre-recorded, because we're still in a pandemic and we can't be together. But hopefully that time is coming soon. We'll be able to record a live, well, not live, but record together with me and my co-host. So, without further ado, here's that interview. Enjoy. Hello?
Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm all right. All right.
Good.
Thanks for doing this with me. Appreciate
No problem.
Then how you been?
I've been doing pretty good. There was a little action today in East Chicago.
Okay.
Been working from home is interesting. It's starting to pick up actually. So yeah. How about you?
I've been all right. Just mainly working with this soccer thing. So other than that, pretty much nothing.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
All right. Let's get started. It's already recording, so
I see.
yes. So yeah, we'll be talking about the servant girl murders of Austin.
The servant girl murders. Gotcha.
Yes, of Austin, Texas, back in 1885 and 1886.
Okay.
Also called the servant girl Annihilators.
Oh my God. That's such a prideful term. The servant girl Annihilators.
Yeah.
Like the American Gladiators.
Yeah. Well, it's a modern. They just modernly called it that. So.
Okay, so I type in servant girl, and servant girl Annihilator comes right up.
Yes.
This is gonna be a horrible conversation.
Yes, it is.
The Annihilator.
Yes. Yeah, it's also called the Austin Axe Murderers too. So
yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bad one. It's an interesting case because it's really interesting case because one, this person or persons killed mainly domestic workers in the Austin area, but not all of them. There was one male that was killed and a child that was killed, and the last two victims were white women who were married. The first five were black domestic servants. Two, this is probably the first serial killer, if this is one killer, the first serial killer recorded in the United States. This predates H.H. Holmes by, I believe, 8 years. And it also predates the murders that happened in the London area of Whitechapel in the late 1880s, which is known as Jack the Ripper.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So this is probably the first serial killer, American serial killer. Yes. Like some people say, no, it's H.H. Holmes, but no, it's this. Yeah.
They deserve a posthumous medal of some kind. I don't know what that medal would look like. I'm not sure what form that medal would take.
A jail cell and the electric chair, but
Is that it?
Yes, that's what they deserve. So what have you heard about this, if anything ever?
Oh, I just doing my research. So it struck me it struck me along the lines of Holmes because of who they targeted as their victims, right?
Right.
People who didn't necessarily have protection, people who nobody was necessarily championing for in society or anything like that. Working women,
Yes.
right? And in that era, this is like the 1880s, right? There's nobody checking for working women, because if you're working and you're a woman, especially, you're poor as hell.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nobody championing for you. There's, you're even looked at a certain kind of way, right? You're looking to be rescued from working. you marrying a poor man is still a rescue from you working, right? Because who wants to? I mean, the sexism of the day, right? Who wants to employ a married woman? Because when you're a young single woman in employment, and we'd like to think it was a long time ago, but no, it's still, people still get treated like this.
Right.
A young single woman in employment in that area, you're also looked at as a sexual target.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you're looked at as somebody who can provide that quote unquote service for a boss. So you have women you have women who are not regarded as much, regarded as definitely replaceable. So who's going to miss these women?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, they really started into the investigation until like really the end, when 2 white women were killed, and this killer was constantly going around just killing people, and you only hear about some of it in the news, but not really a lot of it.
Right.
So,
okay.
And also it was killed by an axe, and we've done a couple of shows like the Cleveland, no, not the Cleveland torso murders, but other axe murders, and there was a lot of them during this time between the late 1800s and the early 1900s. And
this just sounds terrible. There was a whole lot of them back then.
Yeah, because it was a readily available object. Everyone had, if you had a home, you readily have an axe, because you didn't have indoor heating. You had to chop up wood and put it in your wood fire coal. So there was a lot of them. But some people think, oh, all these murders are connected. No, they're not.
And I read too, they had an 11-year-old victim.
Yes, it was an 11-year-old victim.
God.
They were.
Oh my gosh!
The mother was attacked first, and she ended up surviving, but the child was attacked and they didn't survive. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Let's get into it a little bit.
Let's get into it.
Yes, let's get into this thing. Again, it's the Servant Girl Annihilator, which is a term was recently attributed to this killer, and it was mostly known as the Austin Axe Murderer, or the Servant Girl Murderer. It was a series of 8 axe murderers during the time. And again, like I said, it was 3 years before Jack the Ripper, and 7 to 8 years before H.H. Holmes. According to author Philip Sugden, in The Complete History of Jack the Ripper, the conjecture that the Texas Killer and Jack the Ripper were one and the same man originated in 1888, when an editor of the Atlanta Constitution proposed this conjecture following the murders of Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes by Jack the Ripper. We'll get into that conspiracy theory towards the end. Give you a hint, it's not the same killer. It's not. Okay. Totally different. God, what do they call it? MOs. But all right. Pretty much the crimes were servant girls, usually young African American women, like we had said, who at the time were commonly employed as domestic servants in the Austin area households. The epithet servant girl murderers is perhaps something of a misnomer. One of the victims was male, the boyfriend of one of the slain women. And again, one of the victims was a child, the daughter of the servant, who was herself attacked but not killed. The last two victims were married white women. Neither one of them were servants. In the first months of 1885,